before we go any further, what I would like to do now is I would like to poll all of you and get a little bit of information about your experience with ePortfolios. And I can see, and Helika asked if this session is going to be recorded. My understanding is that it is being recorded, but let's make sure before we go. Okay, thanks, Paul. Paul's on it. All right, so if you would, we're going to stop here and I'd like to do a poll. So please go to slido.com. It's that address off to the left. Enter in number 1552 when you get there, and let us know what is your experience with ePortfolios. The choices that we have here are, I have created an ePortfolio for myself. I have had students create ePortfolios. I am interested in having my students create ePortfolios, and so on. And of course, there's an other. You can select all that apply. So, and thanks, Paul, for putting that link in the chat. Okay, so I want to learn more ePortfolios. Well, you're in the right place for those of you that put that. We're going to stop here for about, let's say, another 30 seconds. So I'm going to start my timer. And about 20 more seconds. All right. Those of you that have put other, please let us know what those other reasons are in the chat. That would be great. And yeah, that makes sense. I want to learn more about ePortfolios. Again, another 10 seconds to go. We have, let's see, we have about 20 participants. You can see Slido, by the way, is a great tool, and you can see it's incrementing up here. We've had about 12 people participate. It'd be great to get as many of you to participate in this as possible, just so we can have a little bit of background about what your experience is with ePortfolios. And I'll let it go for another 15 or so seconds. Again, slido.com, number 1552. All right, so you can see we definitely have a majority. I want to learn more about ePortfolios. Well, again, you're in the right place. We have 15% saying I'm interested in having my students create ePortfolios. Great, you're in the right place as well. And actually, you're in the right place for all of these answers. Again, if you're one of the folks that put other, it'd be great to know what your experience is outside of what those choices that we have there. All right, let's continue. Okay. All right, so when I think about ePortfolios, this is Marina Beach. I'm from Marina. Marina is I imagine most of you are probably from the Monterey Bay area, but I happen to live in Marina. I live right up the street from this beach. And I took this picture when I was actually preparing for this because I see that you can see the sun there is shining and reflecting on the water. And when I think of ePortfolios, I think of those two words. I think of shining and reflecting. ePortfolios give our students the opportunity to shine, to showcase, and I'm going to use that word too interchangeably with the word shine, to showcase what they're doing and the great things they're doing and the great things that they're doing academically, but also the great things that they're doing in their extracurriculars. And then also to reflect on how those activities that they're doing are impacting their career trajectory or how they're thinking about the future. If we were to put that into words, and this came out of some work that our district has done in the Salinas Union High School District around developing an ePortfolio for the students. So I'll go ahead and read this to you. Our initiative in the district was to create and implement a district-wide digital portfolio system that students develop to showcase, reflect upon, and share their educational journeys. It should highlight the 21st century skills, creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, those 4 C's. So what we did is we had that initiative. We co-constructed a team that put together a tech plan, met and created that initiative. And then we met the summer following and we went through a design thinking process that was a team effort involving a student or a former student and a parent and a number of teachers and some department heads. And we created a ePortfolio template that we are now in the process of rolling out in steps. And as part of that rollout, we created some introductory language around this. And so the introductory language that we share with the students says this, and there's some very important language in terms of parent engagement that we'll get to as we go through this. So an ePortfolio is an excellent way to showcase and reflect. This is the message that we share with students. And showcase and reflect on your academic work and activities while you are a student. It will be a place where you can consider how your extracurricular and learning experiences are preparing you for post-secondary education and or career. In addition, your ePortfolio will allow you to share the great things you are doing with your parents. And that's why we're here, right? Talking about parent engagement, college, admission offices, employers, friends, and your school. So again, that keyword for our purposes right now is parents, right? But in addition to that, an ePortfolio it goes out to a broader audience. It goes out to future employers, perhaps, college admissions offices. We've had people share them with future employers and so on. Again, getting to that idea of authenticity. An ePortfolio is certainly that. It provides a medium for an authentic way of students expressing what they know and what they've learned. All right, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to share 3 slides of standards. And the only reason I'm sharing these with you now is because I want you, if you engage in this with like your PLC perhaps at your school site, or you engage with an ePortfolio in your district and you're rolling this out, I think we know it's very helpful to be able to use standards to make the case for ePortfolios. I was in a conversation today with a school site that is interested in doing an ePortfolio, but they're concerned about the time commitment and so on and so forth. And I reflected on the standards. Here are the Common Core standards for history, social studies, science, and technical subjects, and these are the writing standards. As you can expect, ePortfolio requires writing, so writing is a big deal. In addition to that, we've talked about authenticity and publishing to an authentic audience. These are all things that appear in the Common Core standards. In addition to that, the ELD standards are an important thing across California, right? Especially for us working in Salinas. This is aligned to ELD standards as well. Again, I'm not going to go through all these, but you can come back to this. Again, if you have to make the case for an ePortfolio with a body of your colleagues, you can certainly reflect on those. In addition to that, we've also aligned it with the standards for career-ready practice. And squarely in the middle of the standards that are aligned with the career-ready practice are to develop an education for students to develop an education and career plan aligned with personal goals. And certainly our ePortfolio does that. All right, so the next portion of this, I'm going to walk you through the template that we've set up. This happens to be the landing page for the template, and this is just an example. And in fact, the demo student here is an example. Okay. In any case, you can see it's Spartan. There's not a lot to it, and this is purposeful. The reason for that is we wanted to, when we went through that design thinking process, we wanted to create a shell, something that could be scaled up, but not necessarily scaled down. So we've had teachers in our district who have taken this scaled down, for lack of a better term, scaled down ePortfolio system, and they've added to it. They've added their own sections. For right now, on our simplified ePortfolio template, we've got 4. We've got a home section, we've got an academic excellence section, we've got an activities section, and we've got a college and career section. Again, other teachers have come in here and they've added other sections and other pages and so on. But again, we found that it is easier to scale up if you want to do that rather than scaling down. So under the home section, there is an About Me page, and there's a My Academic Plan, and we'll take a look at those. Under the Academic Excellence section, this is where kids showcase, or where students showcase their academic progress and artifacts that speak to their academic progress. It's a moment to shine. In the activity section is similar. It's another place where students can reflect and showcase the extracurricular activities. And to be quite honest, this is one of the things that's been really enlightening for me as I've watched students develop their ePortfolios. It's developing their activities and talking about how their activities have played the importance of their activities and how their activities speak to what their future goals are, or just what their aspirations are and what their interests are in the moment. And then importantly, there's a college and career. So we'll break this down, but importantly, I want to point out on the home page, there's also a shine here, and this is meant to be a showcase moment for the students. You can see this one happens to say Moss Landing Harbor Cleanup. You can see there's an artifact here in the form of a picture. There's a date, and then there's a very simplistic explanation, like 2 sentences about, why this is important to this student and why this student is choosing to showcase this. And again, I'm going to share some prompts with you and some sentence starters and some other scaffolds that help students get started with this. But you can see it's not a lot, right? It's relatively simple. It's got a picture and an artifact. And then there's some welcome language down here. Now, this showcase, as all the other things, should be changed out over time, and it should be like rotated out, like quarterly, perhaps more frequently. Okay, so let's head into the About Me. So again, a very simple page about me. The student, again, I'm going to share some prompts with you about what this page has, but just an introduction for the student and their future aspirations. And then again, in the home section, there's a My Academic Plan. I'm going to pause here for a moment because this has become a big deal in our district. In our district, we've had a great deal of success with high school graduation numbers, upwards of 95%. But A through G requirements have been something that we can do better on. And so the intent of this section under the homepage became something that one of the counselors that was participating in that design thinking process that helped us create this wanted to put in order to encourage students to take ownership of their academic progress over the course of their time in the school, while they're in school in Salinas Union High School District. So this 4-year plan is a personal 4-year plan. And this is nothing more than an embedded Google Sheet inside this Google Sites template. That's all it is. And I have some tutorials that can help adults or can help teachers, but also will help students get started with this. That's all it is. It's just a Google Sheet, a student's Google Sheet that they can share with their counselor or they can share with whoever else, and they've embedded it inside this Google site. And again, I have YouTube videos that go through that process. The intent here, of course, is to get students, again, to take ownership of their 4-year plan. So they are getting through those A through G requirements, which will then equip them, right, or enable them to be able to move on to CSU and UC schools. Similarly, we also have a middle school plan. And so we have a middle school and high school. And you can see there's the tail end of the high school. So it's just one page, right, with 2 embedded Google Sheets in it. All right, so now we're moving across to the academic excellence page. And when you land on the academic excellence page, or you click on that, again, it's another area for showcasing what the student wants to spotlight in the moment, what they're doing academically. And you can see the artifact here. Again, it's in that pattern of an artifact and text that describes it and describes why it's important. And that's it. So here's the artifact. In this case, it's a painting. And here's some text describing the importance of that, maybe describing why they're choosing to show it, why they enjoy working with watercolors or whatever the medium is, and so on. Okay, in addition to that, of course, under academic excellence would be all of the subjects in which the student wants to showcase. So in our district, we encouraged school sites to at least have the 4 content subject areas, like social studies, science, English, and math, ELA, ELD. But what we found too is students want to also, of course, put their electives in. But that was the minimum we started with. It's up to you, like how you want to format it. And in some cases, right, in some cases, there wasn't buy-in from some of the departments at some of the schools. So it might just have ELA and science and maybe an elective, right? So we're building this out over time. It can be, again, it can be scaled up or scaled down to whatever your vision for it is and whatever the buy-in is as you have at your site for it. All right, so that was academic excellence. Now we're into the activities. And again, the activities is in that same model. And again, you can see this is cross-posted, right? There's no reason you can't cross-post things. Here is that artifact. Here is the title of what it is, and here is the importance of it and what it is. Again, simplistic, right? And here's another one, right? Artifact, in this case, picture of Easter eggs, and the title, and then why it's important, okay? So that's that, and then college and career. This one is pretty simplistic. This, again, can be scaled up. At some schools and with some students, they've added resumes, they've added references and so on. But in this case, this one just has what the student's career goal is and where they want to be in 5 years. Again, I'm going to share some sentence starters with you and so on. I'm going to pause here, and we're going to take about 3 minutes if we need it. And Mike, I'm going to ask you to unmute and see if we have any questions that have populated the chat that we need to address. And you know what, since we have 19 folks here, if you just want to unmute and ask a question too, that's fine. And if there's none, we'll just continue moving on. But again, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, definitely, Rob. So at this point, nothing in the chats, or in the chat, I should say, but definitely if anyone feels like they would like to unmute and comment, that would be great.
Okay, good. Again, I'm going to leave this open. Here's my window, right? I'm going to close my window. Do some of you use this when you're doing your virtual instruction? Like you have this much time left, right? I'm going to close it, close it, close it, close it, close it. All right, it's almost shut. All right, it's shut. Okay, so feel free. We've got 20, 20 or 19 or so people here. So feel free to unmute and stop at any point or add the question in the chat. There'll be other ways to engage like that as we continue. For this next portion, so I showed you a model, right? But now I'm going to show you some actual student work. And so this is from one of our students that just graduated. And this is an example that this is Gabby's work she started on when she started this process when she was a sophomore. And this student was incredible. And one of the things that was awesome about Gabby, she was one of our avid students at Salinas High. And she was just super involved, hyper involved. I was so impressed with her activities. Remember I made that comment about activities being such a learning thing for me about what kinds of activities our students are really doing and what they're interested in. In fact, some of our students that weren't achieving at a high level academically, the activities section became a forum or a medium for them to really celebrate the work that they were doing, even if it really wasn't there academically. So again, it provides lots of room for students to celebrate their work they're doing, whether it's academics or activities and so on. In this case, Gabby was highlighting on, I think this is her homepage, one of her action research projects. She was, again, involved with lots of different things. I think this had some kind of some kind of political affiliation. It looked like something in the arts. This is an example from her psychology class. This is under academic experience. She's highlighting something from psychology. Again, you can see nothing more. It looks like a screenshot, right? A screenshot for the artifact, and then a reflection on that. And that's all it is. And then here's one of the activities that Gabby was involved with. She performed in a dance group, and her artifact in this case with a video, right? We've seen a lot of pictures so far, but video is great. Video is engaging, and people like to see video for sure on a website. So she had that here. And then she had a reflection on that off to the left. Again, you see that format, right? You have the artifact on one side, and then you have the reflection on the other. All right, so let's talk about resources. And this might be the most important slide in the whole slide deck. And that's because so you've seen a lot about the form and the setup and the rationale for ePortfolios. But if you go to bit.ly/EP-res, and if one of the co-facilitators wouldn't mind dropping that link in the chat, that would be great, so people can just click to it. You're going to come up to a page that provides all our scaffolds. You're going to see the ePortfolio example pages, the an example that we just looked through. So you're going to see that. And then very important is the ePortfolio content outline. And I'm going to go through that because, believe it or not, the hardest thing is not developing the Google site. It's getting that initial content, right? Getting the students to articulate themselves in a way that's appropriate for the ePortfolio and that's professional and sounds good and looks good. And then developing that first, and then taking that and then putting it into the ePortfolio. So you'll see that my recommendation is always start with the content. In fact, I've done a lot of websites. Before I took a break from teaching for a while and was a website producer privately and for a number of organizations. And we always started with content. Like, what is the content that you want to showcase? And then take that content and design a site around it, right? So start with the content. The Google site, again, developing the Google site is not the biggest challenge. It is getting the words right, right? And then below that, there are some tutorials, and I'll show you what that page looks like. And then there's even some teaching resources. So in my role as a district ed tech, and I was encouraging schools to do this, I would go and I would roll up with my presentations, and I'm sharing my presentations with you here. There's some presentations here you can use. If you want, you can modify them, copy, do whatever you want. And Mike, thanks for putting that. Thanks for putting that. If we could put the link, I'm going to drop that link in there so everybody can get to it. So bear with me for a moment. I want to put the link to this resources page. So there's that link. Or you can type it in yourself. No worries, Mike. There's so many bit.lys, right? We have so many bit.lys these days. And here's the bit.ly, of course, and Mike, if we want to go ahead and just put the link to the slide deck again, that would be great too. The bit.ly /e uppercase P -engage. So thank you. All right. So let's take a look at, of course, it's always good to start with targets. So one of the resources you're going to see as part of that on that resource site is ePortfolio targets. And this is like a rubric, right? But it's more of like a formative assessment rubric to, again, with the goal of helping students make their ePortfolios better. And you can see the criteria on the left side are those sections, right? You have home, you have academic excellence, you have, and part of it is graded for completion. Another part of it is graded for the, not graded, I don't want to say graded. I want to say it's checked for content. And then there's the activities and college career sections. There is some encouragement around making it visually appealing. We do want this to be visually appealing, right? We're going out to an authentic audience with this. And of course, there are digital citizenship components too. I don't know if you saw it, but on those images should be cited, right? If a student is taking images, like, I don't know if you saw it on the Ann example, there was a Moss Landing picture, and then that image should be cited, right? Just to give credit to the person correctly. And then you can see it's just a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, and with room to make comments in here. Again, with the goal of helping the students develop this and make it better, right? It's just a formative check that would conceivably be given multiple times. Of course, take this and run with it if you like it, and tweak it, make it work for you. Here are some prompts. We've been talking a lot about prompts. I think it's very, prompts, we know, guide students to getting out the content that we want. So here are some prompts for the About Me section. Here are some prompts for activities and so on. And then here is where I would start with this. And you're going to see this in the lessons if you open up the lessons. And this is the content outline. So you can see some white spaces, right? This is where students would begin the process of creating their ePortfolio content. Once the content is done, then they would just simply cut it and, of course, checked. You know, I would go through a process of, with my high school students, it's been peer reviewed, right? So I have them review it, and I ask, this is another parent engagement piece too, is I ask them to check it with their parents or guardian, perhaps another teacher, and then of course I would look at it. And then they cut and paste that reviewed content into their ePortfolio. So there's a content check along the way. You can see there's some language that's already set up. Some of this language is like boilerplate, is common language, right? They can just take some of it. Of course, there's some spaces. I'm looking at this academic excellence section. Of course, this is going to change over time as they add more content, but this gives them their initial content to get started with on their ePortfolio. One more thing I want to talk about is privacy. Okay, so we're in a union high school district, and so we thought very carefully about privacy, right? So yeah, we want to have an authentic audience, and we want it to go out to as many people as possible, but we want that to happen in grades 11 and 12. for our students that are in grades 7 through 10, and if you're coming from an elementary school, you want to think about this too, like where do you want to have this Google site be published to? And what's nice about the new Google sites is you can control what parts of your domain or what parts, who sees the site. Like if you are a Google for Education district, which we are, you can say, just publish the website inside the confines of the Salinas Union High School District, for example. And we actually, that's what we do in grades 7 through 10. We say that's where we want it to be published. But then when you get to grades 11 and 12, right, that's a jumping off point. Now students are thinking about college more, right? And they're thinking about careers, perhaps internships. And so that's where we say, now make it public. And in addition to, there's other implications around that too, right? Around their, like putting their first and their last name on their resume, sharing their cell phone on their resume, right? Things that they would publish to their ePortfolio. So again, you want to think carefully about that. Feel free to take some of the guidance. We've run these privacy things up all the way to the highest levels of the district, and this is what we've settled on. So feel free to check those out. In addition to that, I've already showed these blank spots on this template where students write and then they cut and paste and put it inside. This might be, in my mind, this might be the single most, this is the single most foundational piece of this ePortfolio system. All right, in addition to that, there's tutorials, right? So again, teachers often remark to me that they are most concerned about, oh, I got to develop a Google site. I don't know about Google sites. Well, again, for me, the content piece is the biggest challenge, right? Getting that right. But to support students and support teachers with content, there's a series of tutorials. There's, and this is just off of a YouTube playlist. There's an ePortfolio getting started page. There's an ePortfolio, like here's the home page, right? Building the home page. There's the About Me page, my academic plan. This is where it guides students through that process of using the Google Sheet that you saw, like filling that out and then embedding that inside the Google site and so on. Okay. All right, and then of course there's the lessons. I shared the lessons with you that I've used to roll this out. Again, feel free to take those lessons. Again, these are lessons I've used with students, and you can see this is ePortfolio Day 1 overview and content. These are just screen captures from the slides that I used again when I rolled it out with students. And again, you see some of the very same things I've shared with you here. I've also shared with students, right? Okay.
Rob, do you mind if I interject? We have a question. Just wanted to give it some time.
Mike.
No problem. There was a question. Do you have the children build the website themselves?
Yes, absolutely. And again, we're a high school district, right? So 7, 8, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But Google Sites is pretty straightforward. My kids at home have been working on Google Sites, I want to say since they were in 4th grade, 3rd grade, somewhere around there. Any other questions, Mike?
Oh, you're good.
All right, very good. All right, so again, the focus of this conversation, this discussion we're having right now is parent engagement, right? So how can we use the ePortfolio as a medium for parent engagement? Well, one of the ways, right, is you provide, first of all, you introduce it to parents, right? So in whatever communication you have, you say, hey, my class, or if you're an administrator at school, you say, hey, my school, we're doing ePortfolios, and this is what it's going to look like. Perhaps you share the example that I've shared here if you're going to buy into that particular model. But as part of that too, you also give the parents some conversation starters. And I like this. This resource actually comes from Seesaw, which is another version of the ePortfolio. By the way, you can use Seesaw. You can use there's other companies out there that do this, and they do a good job with it. This happens to be that if you're a Google Suite for Education district, Google Sites offers a free tool that you can use and modify and customize to your heart's content. But in any case, so here's some questions from Seesaw. On the left, you see some questions and conversation stems in English, and then on the right in Spanish. If you do look this up, actually, and you have kids who speak other, or families that speak other languages, they do have those as well at Seesaw. So again, this is one tool, right, that you could have parents do. It could be part of that assignment that you send home with parents if you're a classroom teacher, and you say, all right, students, I want you to choose, give your parents 3 conversation starters or 3 sentence stems to use and have them comment on those and then report back in this Google form or report back on this document. By the way, keep in mind that we are heading to, at the end of this, I want us to brainstorm other ways we can get parents to engage with the ePortfolio. And that's coming up, right? That's going to be our last question. And once we brainstorm that, hopefully we'll have a list of different things we can do. And I think that might even be the next slide. So it is the next slide. So we've talked a lot about ePortfolios, right? You've seen the rationale, how we set ours up in the Salinas Union High School District. We've talked about how this becomes an authentic way for students to share what they're doing, to showcase and reflect on their work. And particularly, we're talking now about sharing with parents. We've also seen some resources for building these out. But now what I want us to think about in our last, let's say 5 minutes is I want us to ponder this question. Let's say you build that ePortfolio, right? You build that out in your classroom or at your site or in your district, if you work in that capacity. What are some ideas that we can all generate right now in terms of how to get our students to regularly share their ePortfolios with their parents? So I am going to not mute myself, but I'm going to quiet myself now. And what I'd like us to do is go to slido.com. Yeah, Slido's free. So go to slido.com, and thank you, Mike, for putting that link in the chat. And put in number 1552. And let's start brainstorming some ways in which, again, once we have that system in place, are we going to assign this like quarterly? Are we going to assign it weekly for parents or for students to share with us? What kinds of activities are we going to set up in our class to facilitate that engagement around the medium of ePortfolios? All right, so let's think about that. All right, great. As an RSP teacher, I would probably ask the parent to be part of the creation of this to prepare for a meeting with many questions so that, IEP requires. Good, I love the perspective here. Awesome. Good, so we're gonna leave this open. There's gonna be a little closure, but we're gonna leave this open for 3 minutes, and hopefully we get as many ideas as possible here. Yeah, assign this project to involve parent feedback and discussion. You see that a place for that, of course, is in the content, right? Yeah, and it should be part of the assignment. Like there should be regular checks, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Goals. Absolutely. Thank you. By the way, you're going to see some of these are going to tile away, but what I'll do is I will collect these and I will put a link back like on a slide before this or after this. So we have all these ideas. Share monthly. Yeah, make a commitment to sharing monthly with their families what they've been working on, right? And then have some way of reporting back to the teacher about what the discussion points, right? Perhaps using some of those prompts from Seesaw. I agree. It should be valued for sure. All right, another couple more minutes. Good. Yeah, I like that. Make a section that features, that's excellent. Make a section that features a connection to home to include honor funds of knowledge. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, like even call it like family connection section. That's cool. Love that idea. Again, I think the tool that I presented offers that flexibility, right? You can scale up to something like that. Excellent. All right, we've got just over, let's see, about 75 more seconds. Thank you for sharing these ideas. A weekly basis, all right. Yeah, Seesaw and Class Dojo both have portfolio systems built in. Absolutely. And I can see, do they start these as freshmen? It really right now, it's a hodgepodge in our district. We are trying, someone asked about, do they start as freshmen? They start as, in some cases, 7th grade, in some cases, again, we are a 7-12 district in Salinas Union High School District. But, you know, if like there was synergy, right, between the feeder districts that come into the Salinas Union High School Districts, and they were starting this prior in their elementary school experiences, that would be great too, right? And this is something that they carry with them, right? And they carry with them throughout their academic careers, and they're building it. Think of that archive they would have, and think of that being able to watch that progression in their abilities as they go through the different stages of their lives, right? That could be really cool. Yeah, you know what? Another way, yeah, like make it like if your school buys into it, or if you have parent engagement meetings in your class, yeah, absolutely. Parent-teacher conferences. Good. We are at 6:43, and I promised to get you out of here on time. There's just a couple more slides to go. I really appreciate all the feedback I'm getting. Again, I'm going to take this, and I will link to, I'll create a link to these ideas that were shared on a slide either before, probably after this. All right, so we're going to move on now. All right, so just again, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for taking out, you are investing in your students during your holiday. So shout out to you, well done. That's really commendable and awesome. There are some more sessions that are coming up. Hopefully you've been inspired by some of the things you've seen so far. Tomorrow, Ben's doing another session, and then Paul, who's also in this discussion right now, he's going to be doing sweet stuff with Google Sites. That will be great. At 5 p.m. on Thursday, Krista Bradley and Laura Carey are partnering up, and they are talking about using Google Suite to communicate with families. Laura Carey is doing another session on Friday, July 24th, communicating progress and connecting parent reports, or generating parent reports. And then there's a Q&A on Friday, July 24th. Again, I'm grateful for everyone being here. If you would, in your last minute, there's a short feedback form. I know I'm not leaving you much time to do it, but we value your feedback, right? We will do more of this, and we want to make these as great as they can be. And we know, right, as teachers, that feedback is hugely important. So if you would, please provide some feedback. This has been awesome. I've really enjoyed this discussion. Take care. Have a great day and a great evening. And best of luck to you in these weird times. But with these kinds of discussions and these kinds of interactions, we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to make the best learning experiences that we can for our students. Thanks, everybody.
And don't forget to join us on Monday for our virtual meetup.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Thank you very much. I'm going to hang out if anybody wants to unmute.